Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Today, we will talk about how the Harry Potter adaptations could have been much deeper if they hadn't missed so many details that were present in the books. In this video, I will discuss what moments, in my opinion, should have been in the films and how a TV series could fix these omissions. Enjoy the video. Number 1. The Missing Brother. Let's start with Grawp, the character who appears in The Order of the Phoenix. Unfortunately, his appearance doesn't hold much significance to the main plot, and after the film, he disappears, even though he was connected to Hagrid. He doesn't influence subsequent events, didn't participate in the Battle of Hogwarts, and no one ever mentions him again. Why was he kept in the film but not used? It's a big loss for the audience and the overall story. Number 2, a setup for the future. What do you think of the idea if Sirius Black had been introduced in the first film? Although he appears in the first book, in the movie, he was introduced only in the third one. For example, when Hagrid arrives at Privet Drive, he mentions Sirius as someone who lent him the flying motorcycle. Why not reveal him earlier? This would have created intrigue and a setup for future films. The situation with Mrs. Figg is also interesting. She only appears in the 5th movie, even though her presence was established much earlier in the books. This is another example of how the film missed an opportunity to explore characters in more depth. Number 3. The Missing Horcrux. Horcruxes are a crucial part of the story, but the films often overlooked moments that could have made them more significant for viewers. For example, the Slytherin locket was found in The Order of the Phoenix, but no one realized its importance. This locket turned out to be one of the Horcruxes, and it would have been interesting to see how the characters reacted to realizing this. In the adaptation, however, viewers didn't even suspect this, and the moment was lost. The same goes for the Ravenclaw diadem, which Harry accidentally found in the Room of Requirement. The film doesn't explain that this was a crucial Horcrux, which is also a huge oversight. Number 4. The Mirror of Erised. One of the most confusing moments was the scene with the mirror in Deathly Hallows. The shard of the mirror that Harry finds is left unexplained. In the books, this mirror has its own history, and its connection to Sirius is revealed, but in the films, viewers are simply asked to accept its presence. They could have introduced it much earlier to provide more context, which would have added depth to the plot. Number 5. Dark Deeds. Another missed opportunity is the scene with the vanishing cabinet and the cursed necklace, which were meant to play a role in the future. The necklace, which Draco Malfoy notices in Borgin and Burkes, later becomes an important element in the story, but the films don't emphasize this. Similarly, the vanishing cabinet, which later becomes a key plot point, appears in the film, but its significance isn't fully understood by the audience. Number 6. Love off-screen. It's also disappointing that some important events in the characters' lives were left off-screen. For example, the relationship between Bill Weasley and Fleur Delacour, which develops in the book, is reduced to just one line in the film. Similarly, the relationship between Lupin and Tonks, their love and tragic deaths were significantly shortened. Number 7. That person. Unexpected twists are always interesting, and one such oversight was with Aunt Petunia. In the 5th film, she suddenly recalls Dementors and their connection to Azkaban. But who told her about Dementors? The answer to this question could have been explored in more detail, as it was Severus Snape. The opportunity to reveal Petunia's secret knowledge of magic and Harry's past was missed. Number 8. Magical books and hidden connections. In the world of Harry Potter, books are not just sources of knowledge, they become magical artifacts with deep, hidden meanings. Take the Half-Blood Prince, for instance. It's more than just a textbook for potion making. Within its pages lies a crucial mystery, that connects Harry's destiny with Voldemort's past. In the films, the focus is mainly on the annotations that help Harry with his brewing skills, but the deeper significance is barely touched upon. In the books, Harry uncovers how Tom Riddle, Voldemort, hid his soul in important magical objects. The Half-Blood Prince may not just be a book, it could be part of a far-reaching plan to tie Harry's fate to Riddle's own. "This book is a copy of my most important memory," says the prince, hinting at a hidden connection. Imagine the shock Harry and the audience would experience if they realized that this book, which seemed to offer nothing but scribbled notes, was in fact a key to unraveling the fate of both Voldemort and himself. This revelation would add a level of intrigue and complexity to the story, revealing that even the simplest objects can hold the deepest, most dangerous secrets. Number 9. Resurrection through sacrifice. In the films, the process by which Voldemort uses Harry's blood for his resurrection is glossed over, but in the books, this is a much more intricate and eerie magic. The ritual requires not just the blood of a living being, but a bond that ties Harry to Voldemort in a deep, unbreakable way. In the Goblet of Fire, we learn that Voldemort's use of Harry's blood allows him to regain his full strength, but it also links their fates forever. "The bond that ties you to me," Voldemort says during his return, "is stronger than you know." This magical connection is not just a simple transfer of power, it's a twisted form of dependency where Voldemort needs Harry to remain alive in order to fully return. By showing this bond in greater detail, the films could have expanded on the horrifying nature of Voldemort's magic, how Harry's blood isn't just a vessel for his resurrection, but a symbol of how their destinies are forever intertwined. The films leave this question unanswered, but the books offer rich layers of meaning, making it a fascinating aspect that could have added much more tension and drama to the story. Number 10. Hogwarts, Other Secrets of the School. One of the greatest missed opportunities in the films is the exploration of the hidden secret rooms of Hogwarts. While the school's dungeons, hidden doors, and magical barriers are central to the plot, there is so much more lurking beneath the surface. In the books, we hear whispers of forgotten chambers, long-abandoned classrooms, and ancient rooms sealed away by time. For instance, Harry and his friends stumble upon the Room of Requirement, a place that can only be accessed when a true need arises. It's a space filled with secrets, yet there are many more untold rooms scattered throughout the school. "The room will appear when you need it most," Dumbledore says, hinting at the deeper mysteries of Hogwarts. Imagine how the story would change if these hidden rooms were discovered and explored by Harry, Ron, and Hermione. It would open doors to new plot twists, revelations about the school's past, and perhaps even forgotten magics that could change the course of their journey. The films missed out on this rich potential for hidden knowledge and adventure. Number 11. Guardians and their magic. In the books, we see how Harry frequently encounters those who wield ancient magic, wizards whose knowledge and power have been passed down through generations. These characters, such as Sirius Black, are more than just protectors of magical secrets. They are keepers of the history that shapes the wizarding world. One such example is the way Sirius is revealed to be the guardian of a long-forgotten magical truth, something that could have added a rich layer to the films. In The Order of the Phoenix, Harry learns about the Black family's deep ties to the past, including the secret of the magical vaults hidden within the family's legacy. "The family magic's too powerful," Sirius warns Harry, hinting at the dangerous secrets kept hidden for centuries. This revelation is pivotal because it ties the past directly to Harry's present struggle, yet it remains mostly unexplored in the films. The deeper lore behind ancient magic is crucial to understanding Harry's connection to the greater wizarding world. In The Half-Blood Prince, Dumbledore reveals how ancient magic, like the blood protection Harry's mother left him, was a key part of Voldemort's downfall. But the films don't dwell on the significance of ancient guardianship in the magical world. The role of keepers of magic, like Sirius or even the legacy of the founders of Hogwarts, could have provided Harry with greater insight into his own place in the world. Had the films emphasized this tradition, the connection between the characters and their magical lineage would have felt even more powerful. Harry's journey could have become not only about defeating Voldemort, but about stepping into a long line of magical history where each decision was influenced by centuries of magical guardianship. Number 12. The influence of fate. In the books, Harry's understanding of his destiny is a crucial part of his journey, but the films fail to fully capture how much his decisions shape the future. One of the most powerful moments in The Half-Blood Prince is when Harry realizes that he is not just a passive figure in the battle against Voldemort, but an active participant in his own fate. "I am the chosen one," Harry says with a heavy heart, recognizing the weight of the prophecy that defines his destiny. It's not just about fighting evil, it's about understanding the immense responsibility that comes with his choices. In the films, this internal struggle is often overshadowed by action sequences, leaving out the quiet moments where Harry grapples with the reality of his role. Harry's influence on the wizarding world isn't just shaped by his actions in the grand moments. It's in the small decisions he makes every day. For example, in The Goblet of Fire, when Harry chooses to warn Cedric Diggory about the potential danger, he's not just showing bravery, he's making a choice that will ultimately change the course of his life. "I don't want to be the one who lives to regret this," Harry thinks before handing over the cup. This seemingly simple act is a defining moment, showing Harry's awareness that his decisions matter, that they ripple outward and affect those around him. The films, however, don't spend enough time exploring how his choices, big and small, shape the future. The question of fate also intertwines with Harry's internal doubts. In the Order of the Phoenix, Harry is faced with the uncertainty of whether he will be able to defeat Voldemort, unsure if he's truly capable of living up to the expectations placed on him. "I don't want to be a hero," he admits in frustration. This moment is key because it shows that Harry isn't just the chosen one out of destiny's will. He is the chosen one because he chooses to fight. The films often bypass these internal moments, focusing on external battles, but these inner conflicts where Harry questions himself and his path would have added a layer of drama and depth to his journey. Number 13. The dark side of Gryffindor. Gryffindor House is known for its courage and nobility, but there's a darker side that often goes unnoticed in the films. The house isn't perfect, and sometimes its members' ambition and fierce determination lead to actions that have unintended consequences. James Potter, for example, was a hero in the making, but also a bully in his youth. He tormented Severus Snape, pushing him to the breaking point. The prank had gone too far, Harry reflects on Snape's memory, witnessing James's cruelty. The moment is a crucial part of understanding how James, though a hero, wasn't always the ideal figure everyone believed him to be. It's easy to see him as the perfect father in the films, but the books show a more complicated, flawed character, someone whose past mistakes shaped his son's future. The darker side of Gryffindor's values isn't just about individual actions, it's about the consequences that ripple through time. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry discovers the truth about his father's treatment of Snape and faces the truth that his idolized vision of James was incomplete. The films gloss over this complexity, but the books delve into how these actions affect Harry's own struggle with his identity. "You were the one who made Snape's life a misery," Harry says in frustration. This line highlights the burden Harry must carry, coming to terms with the fact that his father, the embodiment of Gryffindor courage, was capable of cruelty. It's a harsh realization, but one that adds layers to the story, deepening Harry's journey of self-discovery. By not exploring these darker elements, the films miss a significant opportunity to examine how the values of Gryffindor, bravery, ambition, and a fierce sense of justice can sometimes lead to harmful outcomes. It's not just about fighting the dark forces of the world, it's about facing the darkness within. Harry's journey isn't just about defeating Voldemort, it's also about understanding the complexity of the world he's part of, including the flaws in his own house. The internal struggle of reconciling bravery with arrogance, courage with cruelty, would have added immense depth to the films and could have given Harry more meaningful growth. In the books, the tension between the noble ideals of Gryffindor and the darker actions of its members is a constant theme. From the mistakes of James Potter to the impulsiveness of Harry himself, these characters are forced to confront their flaws. The films, however, avoid addressing these moments in depth, leaving out how they challenge the character's growth. In The Goblet of Fire, when Harry takes the Triwizard Cup and faces near-death experiences, he's pushed to question what true bravery means. Is it only about facing danger, or is it also about acknowledging the harm we cause to others, even unintentionally? This duality, the light and dark side of Gryffindor, could have shaped a more nuanced narrative, one that would resonate deeply with viewers who see themselves in these complex, imperfect heroes. Number 14, Hogwarts and its professors. Hogwarts, with its towering spires and hidden corridors, is not just home to students, but to a myriad of fascinating professors, each with their own story to tell. The films focus on the most prominent ones, McGonagall, Snape, and Dumbledore, but there are countless other figures whose backgrounds and perspectives are left unexplored. Take Professor Binns, the ghostly teacher of history of magic. His classes are known for being dull, but there's much more to him than meets the eye. Binns is a spectre of the past, a man who once lived among wizards but chose to continue his work even after death. His haunting yet humorous perspective on the magical world's history could bring depth to the series, offering a reflection on how history shapes the present. Professor Binns drifted into the room and began his lesson as though nothing had happened. His view of magic, untethered from the world of the living, is both tragic and revealing. Equally intriguing is the ever-changing role of the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Every year a new professor arrives, bringing their own methods, personalities, and secrets. From the well-meaning but often overbearing Professor Lockhart to the enigmatic Remus Lupin, each one left their mark on the students, particularly Harry. The constant turnover of Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers creates a sense of instability in the school, yet it also offers valuable lessons. Lupin, for example, taught Harry not only how to face external threats, but how to confront his own fears. "The werewolf is the most dangerous creature you will ever face," Lupin had said, his voice steady. "But the greatest enemy lies within." This lesson, one of self-acceptance and bravery, was something Harry would carry with him in the battles to come. While Binns and the Defense Against the Dark Arts professors might seem like side characters in the grand scheme of things, their contributions are significant. They add layers to the narrative, bringing insights and complexities to the world of magic. The unpredictability of the Defense Against the Dark Arts department, in particular, serves as a metaphor for the chaos and danger lurking just beneath the surface of Hogwarts. Each teacher, like a fleeting shadow, adds something to the puzzle but also leaves something behind, reminding us that some mysteries are never fully solved. In a series already rich with mystery and adventure, the exploration of Hogwarts teachers would provide much-needed depth. Each one has their own untold story, whether it's Binns' ghostly existence, Lupin's tragic past, or even the brief but telling presence of characters like Quirrell and Umbridge. Their stories are not just lessons in magic, but in life itself. As Harry and his friends navigate their own journeys, the influence of these professors, seen or unseen, remains an indelible part of their growth. Number 15, the magic we don't see. In the magical world of Harry Potter, we often find ourselves enchanted by the vivid imagery of spellcasting, potions brewing, and enchanted objects. However, beneath the surface of these captivating visuals lies a wealth of untapped magic that is barely touched upon in the films. J.K. Rowling's books are filled with references to obscure magical arts, forgotten spells, and ancient theories that would have added a deeper layer to the world if they had been explored further. In a magical realm as rich as this, it's not just the obvious magic that deserves attention, it's the hidden facets of the magical world that offer a unique and intriguing perspective on how magic shapes the characters, society, and even the very fabric of history. One such neglected opportunity lies in the realm of ancient magic and forgotten spells, areas of study that could have brought an entirely new dimension to the characters' understanding of their world. If we look at the character of Professor Binns, the ghostly history of magic teacher at Hogwarts, we see a figure who represents the study of the past, yet his lessons often lack the depth and curiosity that could have made them truly fascinating. In the books, there is a mention of ancient magical civilizations such as the founders of Hogwarts, but these references are often brief and underexplored. Imagine an episode where Harry and his friends encounter a scholar devoted to uncovering the secrets of forgotten spells, someone who digs into ancient scrolls or deciphers long-lost magical languages. This would not only introduce us to the mysterious world of lost magic, but also explore magic as a historical, intellectual pursuit, a pursuit that requires time, patience, and scholarly dedication. Furthermore, the magical theory that underpins spells and magical laws is only skimmed in the stories. We know that certain spells, like Leviosa or Expelliarmus, are taught in school, but the deeper theoretical implications of magic could have been explored further. What if, in addition to learning how to cast spells, students also delved into why spells work? A class devoted to magical theory could reveal fascinating concepts about the universe, much like how Muggle scientists investigate the natural world. We know that transfiguration is rooted in the concept of changing one substance into another, but how do these laws of magic govern the very fabric of reality in the wizarding world? Harry and his friends could have met a wizard philosopher, studying the nature of magic itself. Such a character might question the ethical implications of magic, discussing its potential for both creation and destruction. They might explore how magic interacts with the fabric of time, space, and matter, much like Muggle physics, but with a magical twist. One area that is sorely underexplored in the films is the darker side of magic, particularly blood magic. Blood magic is mentioned in the books, especially in connection to dark wizards like Voldemort and his followers, yet there is so much more to be discovered about this forbidden art. The idea that magic can be tied to one's very essence, to the blood that flows through their veins, is a fascinating concept that could have added complexity to the story. For example, we see Voldemort using blood to resurrect himself in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, but the history of this dark magic, its origins, and its consequences are only hinted at. Imagine a storyline where Harry and his friends uncover the history of blood magic, perhaps through the study of ancient books or relics. They could visit the ruins of an ancient wizarding society where blood rituals were practiced, and as they explore, they begin to understand the true power and danger that blood magic holds. The importance of magical objects often serving as mere props in the films could have been expanded. We know about the Elder Wand, the invisibility cloak, and the Resurrection Stone, but there are countless other magical artifacts that play crucial roles in the wizarding world. The books are filled with references to enchanted objects of immense power, such as the Mirror of Erised or the Philosopher's Stone. But what about the countless other artifacts, some of which could have fascinating backstories that intertwine with the history of the wizarding world? These objects are not merely tools, but are imbued with stories, legacies, and consequences. Picture Harry and his friends uncovering the tale of a powerful, cursed artifact, perhaps an ancient amulet that once belonged to a dark wizard. They could track it down, learning about its original owner, the magic it once wielded, and the tragic consequences of its use. This would have provided a deeper insight into the world of magical objects beyond their simple use in achieving specific goals. There's also the potential for a more sophisticated look at the magical education system. The way magic is taught at Hogwarts is relatively straightforward. Students learn a spell here, brew a potion there, but how did magical education evolve? Who were the first wizards and witches to begin developing spells, potions, and magical practices? In the books, there are passing references to the founders of Hogwarts, but we are never given a full picture of how magical education came to be. A deeper exploration into the curriculum of Hogwarts with a focus on its ancient roots could have been a fascinating avenue to pursue. Imagine a magical historian coming to Hogwarts to teach a special class about the origins of magic, about how the first wizards learned to cast spells, and how magic was passed down through generations. This would not only enrich the understanding of magic in the wizarding world, but also create a connection between the past and the present. Number 16, relationships with parents. The story of Harry Potter is one of loss, courage, and destiny, but at its heart lies a powerful theme: the role of parents in shaping the lives of their children. In J.K. Rowling's magical world, the influence of parents is omnipresent, even in the absence of many of them. Yet the films often fail to fully explore how these relationships deeply affect the characters. The books, on the other hand, offer a more nuanced view of how the love, loyalty, and tragedies tied to family bonds determine the course of each hero's journey. One of the most poignant examples of this theme is Harry Potter's relationship with his parents, Lily and James Potter. The tragic murder of his parents when Harry was just a baby created a vacuum in his life that shaped not only his childhood but also his identity and his future choices. Harry grew up with no memory of his parents, but the love they had for him was etched deeply into the fabric of his life. It was this love, which Harry discovered gradually, that guided his actions. Harry learned in pieces about the courage of his parents, their dedication to each other, and to the fight against Voldemort, and their ultimate sacrifice. The Potter's love for him was embodied in the iconic moment when Harry first touched the Mirror of Erised, where he saw his parents smiling at him, offering him a glimpse of a life that had been stolen from him. As he matured, Harry began to understand that his parents' choices, their bravery, and their unwavering commitment to defeating dark forces were the foundation upon which his own decisions were built. This was more than just a deep, tragic loss for Harry. It was the force that compelled him to fight. Their love didn't just stay in the past, it lived on in him, driving his every action and the choices he made throughout the series. In contrast, the Weasley family offers a different but equally complex portrayal of family dynamics. Ron Weasley's relationship with his brothers, particularly with Percy, is one of love but also of rivalry, disappointment, and the search for individual identity. Ron, the youngest of 7 children, often felt overshadowed by his older brothers. Percy, who was academically inclined and obsessed with rules, created a rift within the family when he sided with the Ministry of Magic during the war, distancing himself from his family. Ron's feelings were understandably mixed, torn between admiration for Percy's ambition and a deep sense of betrayal as Percy prioritized his career over the bonds of family. It was this fracture in the Weasley family that revealed an essential aspect of how families influence individuals. Ron's loyalty to his family was unquestioned, yet his personal struggle reflected his desire to carve out his own path, separate from the shadow of his older brothers. When Percy eventually returned to the family fold during the Battle of Hogwarts, it was a moment of reconciliation, but it was also a profound commentary on how family relationships, no matter how fractured, can ultimately come full circle through loyalty, love, and the willingness to sacrifice for one another. This theme of reconciliation, of forgiving and understanding, plays out not only in Ron's relationship with Percy, but also with Fred and George, whose bond with Ron was unwavering despite the occasional tension between them. The Malfoy family, with its complex web of power, loyalty, and expectations, offers another striking example of how parents shape their children's paths. Draco Malfoy's relationship with his father Lucius is one of reverence, fear, and control. From the very beginning of the series, Draco is depicted as a boy deeply influenced by his father's values and beliefs, particularly those surrounding blood purity and the Malfoy family's status within the wizarding world. Lucius Malfoy's authority over Draco is both oppressive and isolating. Draco is desperate for his father's approval, but it's clear that his father's love is conditional, shaped by power and prestige rather than genuine care. Throughout the series, Draco is torn between following his father's demands and his growing sense of moral conflict. This tension reaches its peak in The Half-Blood Prince, when Draco is given the task of killing Dumbledore, a mission he cannot reconcile with his conscience. His reluctance is not just about his fear of failure, but also his fear of defying his father, and more deeply, his fear of losing his father's love and respect. Ultimately, Draco's arc is a story of breaking free from his father's expectations. His growth is evident when, during the Battle of Hogwarts, he hesitates to reveal Harry's whereabouts to the Death Eaters. In that moment, Draco chooses his own moral compass over the loyalty demanded by his father. The Malfoys, despite their role as antagonists, are a testament to how parental influence, whether through pressure or love, shapes the destiny of the next generation. Number 17. The magical justice system. In the magical world of Harry Potter, the focus is primarily on the adventures, friendships, and struggles of the young wizard and his companions. The conflict between good and evil, personified by the dark wizard Voldemort and his followers, provides the central framework of the story. However, one area that is scarcely explored is the intricate workings of magical justice. While we see glimpses of the Ministry of Magic's power and influence, especially in its leadership by the Minister for Magic, the mechanics of magical law enforcement and justice remain largely in the background. This is especially true in the films, where much of the system is glossed over. In the books, however, there are significant moments where the flaws and potential for deeper exploration of magical law come to light. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, for instance, we are introduced to a critical example of the failure of the magical justice system with Harry's trial for the use of magic outside of school. Harry is accused of casting the Patronus charm to defend himself from Dementors in the Muggle world, an action that puts him at odds with the Ministry. The trial is swift and seemingly impartial, yet the overwhelming pressure and the unfair assumptions surrounding Harry's situation highlight the deep flaws within the system. It isn't just a trial for one boy, it symbolizes the wider issues of the magical world. The fact that a young wizard can be so easily accused and prosecuted without full understanding or clear evidence points to a deeply ingrained problem within magical law enforcement. This specific trial, while dramatic, is just a surface-level portrayal of the corruption within the Ministry of Magic. When we delve deeper, we see how much influence the ministry has over the lives of ordinary witches and wizards, manipulating facts, suppressing information, and even spreading propaganda when it suits their agenda. The Minister for Magic, Cornelius Fudge, for example, is shown to care more about maintaining his position and the status quo than seeking the truth. His refusal to acknowledge Voldemort's return, despite mounting evidence, is a prime example of how the ministry uses its power to avoid taking responsibility and facing uncomfortable truths. By silencing voices like Harry's and refusing to confront the dark forces at play, the ministry in many ways contributes to the larger problem of injustice. Furthermore, another glaring example of the corruption and inefficiency in magical justice is the case of Sirius Black. His imprisonment in Azkaban without a trial is one of the most tragic consequences of the broken system. Sirius is falsely accused of betraying the Potters to Voldemort, a crime he did not commit. Yet despite his innocence, he is locked away in the terrifying depths of Azkaban for over a decade. This tragedy highlights a fundamental issue. The magical justice system operates on a dangerous combination of haste, assumption, and a lack of due process. Sirius's case reveals how easily the ministry can disregard the rights of individuals and allow its own biases to dictate who is guilty and who is not. His wrongful conviction is not just an isolated event, but a symptom of a much larger problem with how the ministry handles justice. What makes this more tragic is that while Sirius languishes in prison, the truth about his innocence is so easily dismissed. The ministry's eagerness to believe the worst about Sirius and his supposed betrayal of the Potters is rooted in fear and prejudice. In the eyes of the magical community, Sirius's connection to the Dark Lord makes him guilty by association, despite the lack of real evidence. This dangerous assumption demonstrates the ease with which the ministry can manipulate the masses and turn public opinion against an individual without ever allowing them the chance to defend themselves properly. This overarching theme of injustice is amplified when considering the role of the Aurors, the ministry's primary law enforcement officers. While these wizards and witches are meant to be the guardians of magical law, their actions are often questionable. For instance, in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, we see the Aurors involved in investigating the mystery surrounding the murder of Draco Malfoy's father, Lucius. But the investigation feels rushed, and the lines between right and wrong seem increasingly blurred. While some Aurors, like Harry's mentor Mad-Eye Moody, are portrayed as honourable, others, like Dolores Umbridge, embody the perils of allowing the wrong people to hold power. The fact that someone like Umbridge could rise to such a position of influence within the ministry speaks volumes about the system's inherent flaws and the danger of unchecked authority. Moreover, the lack of true checks and balances within the ministry is evident when we examine the aftermath of the Battle of Hogwarts. After the defeat of Voldemort, the question arises as to what the ministry will do to address the corruption and injustices of the past. The transition from a war-torn world to one of peace is not just about rebuilding the magical community, but also about restoring faith in the magical justice system. Yet there is little mention of any significant reforms to the ministry's structure or its handling of law and order. The failure to truly confront the flaws within the system suggests a reluctance to admit that it was not just Voldemort and his followers who were a threat to the wizarding world, but also the very institutions that were supposed to protect them. Number 18, Secrets of the School of Magic. Hogwarts is much more than just a school. It is a labyrinth of magic, an ancient structure brimming with secrets, riddles, and forgotten histories. In the films, we are only shown glimpses of its mystical atmosphere, but the books paint a far more complex and mysterious picture of the school. For all its grandeur, Hogwarts conceals many hidden passages, ancient magical practices, and obscure traditions that only the most knowledgeable wizards and witches can understand. These elements, which are often overlooked in the films, offer a much richer and more intricate view of the world of Harry Potter. One of the most striking mysteries within Hogwarts is its concealed corridors. The castle itself seems to be alive with hidden doors, moving staircases, and rooms that appear or disappear without any warning. Most of these passages are invisible to the ordinary student, but to those who are truly attuned to the magic of the castle, they are as much a part of daily life as the classrooms and dormitories. The most famous of these is, of course, the Room of Requirement, a room that appears only when someone is in desperate need of it. This room, hidden behind a blank stretch of wall, offers a perfect example of how Hogwarts is far more than just a place of learning. It is a living, breathing entity that responds to the desires and needs of its inhabitants. In the books, there are mentions of many other magical objects and places hidden within the school. Take the case of the Mirror of Erised, an enchanted mirror that shows the deepest desires of one's heart. Harry's first encounter with it is a deeply emotional moment for him as he sees the reflection of his deceased parents. The mirror, concealed in a deserted room of Hogwarts, serves as both a symbol of Harry's yearning and a warning about the dangers of living in the past. Yet in the films, this magical object is never explored in depth, and its significance is reduced to just a few fleeting moments. The story could have delved much deeper into its psychological effects, showing how the mirror could affect not just Harry, but other characters as well. Additionally, Hogwarts has a long history of magic and mystery that is often glossed over in the films. The ancient traditions of the school, passed down through the generations, are mentioned in passing but never fully explored. The concept of the four founders, Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin, forms the foundation of the school's legacy. Yet the deeper aspects of their rivalry and the magic they left behind are only hinted at. Salazar Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets, for instance, is a dark and fascinating part of Hogwarts' past, yet its full potential as a source of mystery and intrigue is never fully realized. The chamber itself is more than just a place where the monster Basilisk resides. It is a symbol of the old, bitter divisions that once threatened to tear the school apart. The fact that it is still hidden beneath the school's foundations speaks volumes about the ancient magic that resides within Hogwarts. The films also miss an opportunity to explore the deeper, more ancient magical practices that Hogwarts students could have learned. In the books, we hear about various magical studies, such as the study of the dark arts and the history of magic, which are crucial to understanding the foundation of the magical world. However, these topics are often brushed aside with only brief mentions made throughout the series. The idea of ancient magical practices being passed down through generations is particularly intriguing, and the films only scratch the surface of what could have been a captivating exploration. We know, for instance, that the use of wands and certain types of spells has a long and storied history. The magical communities of the past would have had their own traditions and practices, many of which were lost to time. Harry and his friends could have uncovered more of these forgotten arts, gradually piecing together the history of magic through their adventures. One of the most interesting aspects of Hogwarts that is rarely explored in the films is the school's rich collection of enchanted objects. From the invisibility cloak passed down through Harry's family to the enchanted harp in the Great Hall, the school is filled with magical relics that tell their own stories. These objects, imbued with ancient magic, hold secrets and mysteries that have been long forgotten by most. The films barely touch on the significance of these objects, yet they offer an immense amount of narrative potential. Imagine, for example, if Harry had been able to uncover more about his cloak, discovering its origins and the significance of the family that passed it down. This could have added a deeper layer to Harry's understanding of his own identity, linking him to the past in a way that the films did not fully explore. Then there is the mystery of the Forbidden Forest, a place that is both a source of danger and intrigue. The forest is home to many magical creatures, some of which are far older and more powerful than the students at Hogwarts. In the books we see a glimpse of this, such as when Harry, Hermione and Neville encounter the centaurs, and when Hagrid leads the students on their care of magical creatures lessons. However, the full scope of the forest's magic is never fully realized in the films. There is so much more to the forest than the occasional adventure with a dangerous creature. The ancient trees themselves could hold secrets, and creatures that live within its depths might have their own knowledge of magic that could aid Harry and his friends. These forgotten corners of the magical world could have been explored much further, offering rich material for stories about the hidden history of Hogwarts. Beyond the magical creatures, the Forbidden Forest is also a place of dark, ancient magic. The story of the Deathly Hallows is only mentioned briefly in the films, yet it has a much deeper connection to the forest. The Hallows themselves, the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak are legendary objects with powerful magical histories. The fact that Harry's cloak is one of the Hallows adds a fascinating dimension to his journey, yet this plotline is rushed in the films, without the careful build-up that would have made it more impactful. A deeper exploration of the Deathly Hallows and their connection to the forest would have added a sense of weight and gravitas to Harry's final battle. The films also miss the opportunity to fully explore the magical society that surrounds Hogwarts. While we are given a brief look at Diagon Alley, the Quidditch World Cup, and the Triwizard Tournament, these glimpses are mere surface-level representations of a world filled with endless possibilities. The world of wizardry is far more complex than what we see in the films, and Hogwarts, as a central part of that world, could have offered much more in terms of uncovering those secrets. Harry's role as the Chosen One is significant, but there are many other aspects of the magical world that could have been explored in greater depth, from the politics of the wizarding world to the hidden magical communities that exist outside the boundaries of Hogwarts. Another aspect of Hogwarts that could have been more thoroughly investigated is the impact of its ancient history on the students who attend the school. Many students, like Harry, are introduced to the wizarding world without fully understanding the weight of the history they are stepping into. The rivalry between Gryffindor and Slytherin, the old blood feuds, and the secrets of the founders all shape the environment in which Harry and his friends grow up. These stories are essential to understanding the broader context of the magical world, yet they are largely glossed over in the films. A more detailed exploration of how these ancient rivalries affect the students could have deepened the emotional stakes of the story. There is, too, the untold story of the ghosts that haunt the hallways of Hogwarts. Nearly every room is said to be occupied by one or more of the school's deceased inhabitants, yet the films barely give them any attention. Nearly Headless Nick, the Bloody Baron, the Grey Lady, and the other ghosts play a crucial role in the school's atmosphere. They are the echoes of Hogwarts' past, carrying with them untold stories and secrets. More time spent with these spirits could have provided valuable insight into the history of the school, giving Harry and his friends a deeper connection to their school and the lessons it teaches. Ultimately, the potential for deeper exploration of Hogwarts' many mysteries is vast. From the enchanted objects and hidden rooms to the ancient magical traditions that have been forgotten by most, the school offers an endless array of possibilities for further investigation. As we follow Harry and his friends through their adventures, we are given only a taste of the magic that surrounds them. A deeper dive into these mysteries would have not only enriched the characters' journeys, but also expanded our understanding of the world they inhabit, revealing the true magic of Hogwarts in all its complexity. Number 19. Hidden motives of professors. At Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, the professors are not just educators in the magical arts, but individuals whose complex lives, pasts, and motivations remain shrouded in mystery for much of the series. While the films tend to focus on their roles as mere teachers, the books offer glimpses into the hidden layers that define these characters. Each professor carries with them a rich history, often steeped in personal struggles and silent battles that shape their actions and decisions. These depths of character are often overshadowed by their academic roles, but the potential to explore these hidden aspects could have provided even greater richness to the story. Take, for example, Professor Severus Snape, one of the most complicated and enigmatic figures in the series. Snape is introduced as the brooding potions master, the quintessential villain figure whose animosity towards Harry seems to have no clear origin. His mysterious nature draws the attention of readers, but it is not until much later in the series that we learn of his true motivations. Snape's life is defined by loss and unrequited love, beginning with his childhood experience of growing up in a dysfunctional family. His deep attachment to Lily Potter, Harry's mother, and the betrayal he felt when she chose James Potter over him shapes his actions for years. He takes a role as a double agent, walking the fine line between loyalty to Dumbledore and maintaining his allegiance to Voldemort. His motivations are often misunderstood, as his love for Lily Potter and his regret over her death drive much of his internal conflict. The layers of grief, guilt, and redemption could have been explored further, allowing us to better understand the depths of his internal turmoil. In contrast, Professor Minerva McGonagall, the stern yet caring Transfiguration professor and head of Gryffindor House, presents a more reserved but equally compelling story. McGonagall's loyalty to Gryffindor House and her deep investment in the success of her students are clear, but her personal attachment to Gryffindor goes beyond mere professional dedication. Her own past reveals a more complex connection, particularly to her family, and the choices she made as a young woman. McGonagall's relationship with her husband, whom she deeply loved but tragically lost, adds a layer of sorrow to her otherwise pragmatic and no-nonsense persona. Her strength is tested through the heartbreak of that loss, but it is her resilience that shapes her as a character who fiercely protects those she loves. The books hint at this backstory, but a more detailed exploration could have enriched her character, revealing how her personal loss influenced her role as a protector of Hogwarts students, particularly the vulnerable ones like Harry. Then there is Remus Lupin, the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, whose struggles with being a werewolf define much of his identity. Lupin's suffering is silent, invisible to most, and yet it affects nearly every aspect of his life. His transformation into a werewolf every month is not just a physical change, it is a reminder of his social ostracization and the pain of living with a secret that could ruin his career and reputation. As a teacher, Lupin goes to great lengths to shield his students from the dangers of the magical world, but his own vulnerability renders him an imperfect figure, human in the most literal sense. His illness limits his ability to interact with others freely, and it causes him to retreat into solitude, leaving him to grapple with feelings of inadequacy and shame. The series provides a glimpse of how his condition isolates him emotionally, but it never fully delves into how Lupin's illness shapes his relationships with others, particularly with Harry, Sirius, and James Potter. A deeper exploration into his internal struggle would have helped to paint a more complete picture of his self-sacrifice and his struggle to live with dignity despite the cruelty of his condition. Another professor whose background is only touched upon but left underdeveloped is Phileas Flitwick, the Charms Master. Flitwick is depicted as cheerful and kind-hearted, always ready with a witty remark or a spell to lighten the mood. However, there is much more to his character than his jovial nature. Flitwick is a half-giant, a fact that is only briefly acknowledged in the books, but it carries significant weight in the context of his identity. Being part giant in a world that tends to look down on such hybrids likely shaped Flitwick's early experiences, leading him to prove himself in ways that many other wizards would not have to. His smaller stature might also have led to challenges in terms of respect, forcing him to develop a sharp intellect and a deep understanding of magical theory. A more detailed exploration of his past could have illuminated how he overcame prejudice and the struggle to be taken seriously, making him not just a delightful teacher but a symbol of perseverance in the face of adversity. Professor Horace Slughorn, the Potions Master who temporarily replaces Snape, is another character whose deeper motivations could have been explored. Slughorn is known for his tendency to surround himself with the most talented and influential students, forming what he calls Slug Club. His obsession with connections and status stems from a desire to be remembered by the most successful people in the wizarding world. This need to validate himself through association with the famous or powerful can be traced to his own insecurities. His past, particularly his relationship with Tom Riddle, Voldemort, demonstrates how his ambition and desire for recognition led him to make morally questionable choices. The fear of being rejected by those in power and his desire for approval weigh heavily on him, and these themes could have been explored further to reveal the depth of his internal conflict. Slughorn's charm and joviality often mask a more complex character who, beneath the surface, struggles with his own sense of worth. Of course, there are also professors like Sybil Trelawney, the divination teacher whose eccentricity makes it easy to dismiss her as simply a joke. However, Trelawney's character holds more than meets the eye. Her role as a seer is often mocked by others, but beneath her whimsical behavior lies a deep vulnerability and a history of unfulfilled potential. Her ancestors were known for their prophecies, and it is clear that Trelawney feels the weight of expectation, along with the fear of failure that comes with it. Her sense of insecurity leads her to overcompensate, often portraying herself as more mystical and foreboding than she truly is. Yet, in her most poignant moments, such as the prophecy regarding Harry and Voldemort, Trelawney shows her true capacity for foresight. Her journey is one of self-doubt, and the missed opportunity to delve deeper into her personal history, particularly her relationships and the challenges she faced as a female seer in a world that disregarded her, could have added another layer of richness to her character. Even the seemingly more straightforward characters such as Professor Binns, the ghostly history of magic teacher, hold a wealth of untold stories. Binns, who long ago passed away and continued teaching as a ghost, represents the indifference of time and the way history can be detached from personal emotion. His existence raises questions about his past life and what led him to become so disconnected from the world around him. His history is one of passive observation, and the potential to explore how he lived and died could have added a haunting dimension to his role in Hogwarts. These are just a few examples of the professors at Hogwarts who are more than just the roles they occupy within the magical institution. Each character has a past filled with choices, regrets, and secrets, and these hidden motivations influence their actions and interactions with the students. By delving deeper into their backstories, the story could have added greater complexity to their personalities and enriched the understanding of why they behave the way they do. Their hidden struggles would not only have made them more relatable, but would have illuminated the true nature of sacrifice, loyalty, and the human condition, even within a magical world. Number 20. Magic and its connection to nature. In the world of Harry Potter, magic often seems like an abstract force, a power that can be wielded through words, wands, and complex incantations. However, J.K. Rowling's books frequently emphasize the deep connection between magic and nature. This bond, while explored in subtle ways, holds the potential for a much richer and more profound examination of how magic interacts with the world around it. Magic, in its truest form, is not just about spells or charms. It is intricately tied to the earth, its creatures, and its natural phenomena. The films, while visually stunning, could have done more to explore this interplay and show magic as an organic, living force that pulses through the environment. Nature is not merely a backdrop to the magical world, it is a participant in it. Take, for instance, the magical plants that populate the wizarding world, each with their own unique powers and purposes. The mandrake, a creature so deeply connected to the soil, exemplifies the mystical power of plants. The root of the mandrake, when harvested correctly, can heal even the most deadly of curses. However, the very act of harvesting this plant involves a deep understanding of nature's laws, as it is dangerous to approach it carelessly. The mandrake's cry, deadly to humans, reminds us that nature's magic is not one to be trifled with. It has power, but that power comes with consequences, emphasizing the need for balance and respect between magic and the natural world. Consider also the role of poisonous plants, which demonstrate nature's duality in the magical world. One need only think of the yew tree, known for its toxicity and also as the material of Lord Voldemort's wand. The very essence of this tree connects both life and death, echoing the delicate balance in the natural world that can be manipulated by magic. Yet magic is not just about taking from nature, it is also about giving back. The Weasley twins' use of natural ingredients in their magical products, though humorous, subtly conveys the importance of nature in their magic. Their creations, from love potions to fireworks, all stem from an understanding of natural components, further illustrating that magic is most effective when it works with nature rather than against it. In addition to plants, magical creatures are also deeply intertwined with nature, embodying the relationship between magical beings and the earth. Take the hippogriff, a creature that requires a bond of mutual respect with its rider. The hippogriff, a combination of eagle and horse, symbolizes the harmonious connection that wizards can have with the natural world when they treat its creatures with dignity and understanding. Buckbeak's bond with Harry Potter is a perfect example of this. Harry's respectful approach, his recognition of the hippogriff's autonomy, allows them to form a connection based on trust. This interaction reflects a deeper understanding of nature's creatures as sentient beings, capable of forming complex relationships with humans. The same reverence for nature can be seen in the magical creatures of the Forbidden Forest. From the giant acromantulas to the centaurs, the forest is a microcosm of the wild and untamed aspects of nature. In the films, the Forbidden Forest serves as a place of danger and mystery, but in the books it is more than that. It is a realm where nature's raw, untamed power thrives. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione venture into the forest, they are not simply crossing a boundary into a magical realm, they are entering a space where the laws of nature are much more direct and immediate. The creatures they encounter, from the centaurs to the thestrals, are embodiments of the wild force that magic harnesses. Yet there is a constant reminder that the wizards who enter these realms must do so with caution and respect, recognizing that nature cannot be dominated, only coexisted with. Beyond plants and creatures, the very weather and natural phenomena play an important role in the magical world. The magical world is not immune to the forces of nature, and the weather, the seasons, and the elements are more than mere plot devices. The storm that accompanies Harry's arrival at the Burrow in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, or the unusual calm before the final battle at Hogwarts, is an indication that nature itself is affected by the magic that runs through the wizarding world. These changes in the environment reflect the emotional and magical tension of the moment, blurring the line between magic and nature. The storm's fury mirrors the chaos that surrounds Harry as he enters a new and dangerous chapter in his life. In this sense, the weather becomes more than a mere setting. It is a reflection of the magical forces at play. In many ways, magic's relationship with nature is most evident in how wizards and witches use nature's resources. Herbology classes at Hogwarts, for example, teach students about the magical properties of plants and their interactions with both magical and non-magical beings. The lessons taught by Professor Sprout show how deeply ingrained nature is in the magic of the wizarding world. She teaches her students that magic is not just about spells, it is about an understanding of the environment and how it can be used to produce magical effects. From the dangerous properties of the devil's snare to the life-saving properties of the bouncing bulb, every plant in the magical world has a purpose, and that purpose is often linked to nature's own logic. The connection between magic and nature is not without its dangers. The use of magic to manipulate natural elements can lead to unintended consequences, as seen with the dark arts. Dark magic often seeks to twist nature's forces to the user's will, disregarding the balance that nature requires. The Forbidden Forest is filled with such examples, where the use of dark magic or harmful intentions towards nature has created monstrous creatures that are a direct result of a disturbed balance. Voldemort's manipulation of magic is a prime example of this, as he seeks to control and twist nature to suit his own ends. His use of the yew wood in his wand is symbolic of this. Yew is a tree associated with death and regeneration, yet Voldemort uses it to manipulate and destroy life. Yet it is not just the dark side of magic that can have dangerous effects on nature. The natural world in Harry Potter also demonstrates how the very act of magic can sometimes disrupt the balance of the environment. The carelessness with which magic is often used, whether it is students practicing spells in the corridors or wizards conjuring fire, can have unintended consequences. This is most clearly seen in the scenes where magical creatures or plants are harmed due to human negligence or misuse. In the wizarding world, the law of unintended consequences is often at play, where magic's impact on is a reminder that magic, when not used with understanding and respect, can be just as dangerous as any curse. In many ways, the wizarding world represents a fractured relationship between magic and nature. While some magical beings, like Hagrid, have a deep respect for the natural world, others view it as a tool to be manipulated for personal gain. The tension between these two perspectives is at the heart of many of the conflicts in the Harry Potter series. Characters like Draco Malfoy, who is raised with a sense of entitlement and superiority, see nature as something to be controlled and exploited. On the other hand, characters like Harry and Hagrid view nature as something to be respected and nurtured. This philosophical divide forms much of the underlying tension in the series, especially when it comes to the use of magic. If the Harry Potter films had chosen to explore the relationship between magic and nature more deeply, they could have uncovered the more organic and interconnected world that Rowling hinted at in her books. The films certainly touched on this connection in moments, such as when Harry first encounters Buckbeak or when the trio navigates the Forbidden Forest. However, a more thorough exploration of how magic interacts with the world around it could have revealed a more complex and nuanced relationship. Magic, in this light, would not simply be a tool, it would be a force that is deeply embedded in the fabric of nature itself, one that requires respect and understanding to wield effectively. Ultimately, magic in the wizarding world is not just a system of spells or curses, it is a living, breathing force that interacts with the world around it. From the plants to the creatures to the very weather, nature and magic are intimately connected. This relationship, which is hinted at throughout the books, could have been explored in greater depth in the films, offering fans a richer and more complex understanding of the magical world. In the end, magic is not just about power, it is about the balance between human desire and the natural world. It is a reminder that in the end, everything is interconnected. Number 21, Ancient Wizards and Their Legacy. The history of magic in the world of Harry Potter is vast, ancient, and far more intricate than what is commonly explored in the books. While the narrative often focuses on the present-day battles of Harry and his friends, the foundations of the wizarding world forged centuries ago hold deep secrets that remain mostly in the shadows. These ancient magics, which shape not only the magical community but also the very institutions and practices of the present, are the overlooked heart of the story. The lost knowledge, forgotten rituals, and powerful artifacts from the past could have added more layers to the world Rowling created, enriching our understanding of the forces at play during Harry's time. One of the most fascinating aspects of the magical world is the history of the founders of Hogwarts. The four houses, Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, and Hufflepuff, were not merely names chosen arbitrarily, but were deeply linked to ancient principles of magic that were relevant even before Hogwarts was established. Salazar Slytherin, for instance, was not just a founding figure, but also a man whose beliefs in blood purity were steeped in ancient magical traditions. Slytherin's creation of his house wasn't just about establishing an educational faction, it was about preserving an ancient form of magic that respected bloodlines. Slytherin believed that only those from pure wizarding families should wield the highest powers of magic. This belief was influenced by arcane practices of earlier wizards who maintained strict lines of magical heritage and were part of a culture that viewed non-magical people as inferior. These deeply rooted convictions are still visible in his legacy, especially through the actions of the Death Eaters who follow his ideals, notably Voldemort, who revered Slytherin's ancient power. What could have been explored more deeply in the story is the existence of these ancient magical lineages. The Death Eaters were not just a group of followers of Voldemort's ideals. Many of them were descendants of old families who held ancient knowledge. Their ancestors wielded powerful magic, possibly even stronger than what modern wizards are capable of. This ancient magic, passed down through generations, could have been further examined, revealing that it was not merely an allegiance to an evil ideology, but a continuation of a much older and far-reaching legacy. The Dark Lord, in his pursuit of power, was simply tapping into this long-dormant magic. Imagine how the early Death Eaters, like Bellatrix Lestrange or Lucius Malfoy, might have embraced rituals and dark spells that had been passed down from ancient times, embodying practices that were forged by the first generations of magical families. The story of the Death Eaters and their historical connection to ancient magic could have also been expanded to include more details about magical artifacts and how they were used. The Dark Mark, for example, was not just a symbol of Voldemort's reign of terror, it was also an ancient artifact with powers tied to summoning and control. Its origins could have been traced back to magical times, long before Voldemort's rise to power, adding a layer of complexity to its menacing presence. The very use of such a symbol would have had roots in the dark past, and a deeper understanding of its creation and its magical significance could have shed new light on Voldemort's connection to the ancient world. Another example of ancient magic in the series is the Resurrection Stone. One of the 3 Deathly Hallows, the Resurrection Stone, is a mystical object that could bring the dead back to life, or at least allow one to communicate with them. Its creation, as part of the tale of the Peverell brothers, goes back centuries, blending with folklore and the magical history of the wizarding world. However, its true nature and its implications could have been explored further. How did the Peverells come across such powerful artifacts? What was the true origin of the Resurrection Stone, and why was it so powerful that it was deemed one of the Deathly Hallows, objects with the power to alter the very course of life and death? These artifacts are tied to the oldest forms of magic, perhaps even predating the Hogwarts founders. By delving into their origins, the reader could better understand how magic evolved over time and why certain practices were forbidden or lost to history. The ancient wizarding texts, often referenced but rarely delved into, could also have played a significant role in expanding the magical universe. Books like The Dark Arts, A Guide to the Forbidden, Magical Drafts and Potions, or A History of Magic, contain vast amounts of forgotten knowledge about ancient spells, potions, and curses. The role of these texts in the shaping of magical history and their connection to ancient wizards and their practices could have provided a more comprehensive look at how magic has been passed down and transformed over the centuries. Many of the spells and charms used by wizards today originated from these old tomes, yet their creators and the context in which these spells were cast are often left out of the stories. Perhaps the most overlooked aspect of ancient magic is its connection to the magical creatures that roamed the earth long before wizards even created formal institutions like Hogwarts. The giants, dragons, and other mythical beings that existed in the wizarding world long before Harry's time were all part of this magical heritage. Some of these creatures still held great power and knowledge, yet they were regarded as ancient and untamable. The history of these beings, their connection to ancient magical practices, and how they influenced the development of the magical world could have been woven more intricately into the narrative. For instance, dragons were once revered as powerful protectors of treasure, and their ability to hoard magical artifacts could be explored further, especially in relation to the mysterious nature of magical inheritance. The ancient wizarding communities, like the mysterious, elusive wizards of Atlantis, who are often mentioned but never fully explored, could have been pivotal in explaining how magic evolved. These ancient communities may have possessed wisdom and powers that surpassed the knowledge available in Harry's time. The lost knowledge of Atlantis, for example, might have contained secrets of more elemental primal magics, spells that were too powerful or dangerous to be remembered or practiced in modern times. Perhaps the ruins of Atlantis, if ever discovered, would have contained relics and knowledge far surpassing what even the most learned wizards knew. The creation of magical objects with profound powers could also be attributed to the ancient wizards. Artifacts such as the Elder Wand were not mere tools, but reflections of the ancient magical world's complexity. These items were not just designed for practical use, they were vessels of profound, long-forgotten magic. The ancient wizards may have had an entirely different understanding of how magic interacted with the world. It was not just a tool, but a force that could bend reality itself. Such an approach to magic, seen through the artifacts that continue to shape Harry's world, adds depth to the ancient magical traditions that remain. unexplored. Even the magical laws and regulations that govern the wizarding world today could be tied to ancient practices. The Statute of Secrecy, for instance, might have been a response to the ancient magical wars between different wizarding factions. These wars could have led to the creation of many of the rules that wizards follow today, such as the prohibition of certain types of magic. These rules, though deemed modern, could have deep roots in the ancient conflicts that still echo in the hearts of wizards like Draco Malfoy and others who come from families steeped in old traditions. Throughout the books, the wizard's obsession with power, knowledge, and control echoes the ancient struggles for domination. This pursuit of power is not just about Voldemort and his followers, but represents a continuation of a battle that began long before Harry's time. The ancient wizards fought for control of magical knowledge, and their efforts to preserve their legacies formed the foundation of the modern wizarding world. However, the true extent of their influence and the way their ancient magic still impacts the present-day conflicts could have been explored more fully. In the end, the ancient magics that underpin the Harry Potter universe are not simply relics of the past, but are living, breathing forces that continue to shape the destiny of wizards. These forces affect every decision made, every spell cast, and every dark power that rises. The potential to delve deeper into this ancient world and explore how it resonates in the present is a missed opportunity, one that could have added a deeper, richer layer to the already complex world that J.K. Rowling created. Number 22, Magic and its Responsibility. In the world of Harry Potter, magic is not simply an escape or a tool to solve problems. It is a force of profound responsibility, one that has the potential to shape and sometimes even destroy lives. This theme runs deep throughout J.K. Rowling's series, but it is often more subtle in the books than in the films. The films, with their visual grandeur, present magic as an almost immediate solution to conflicts. Yet the books draw attention to the complexities and moral dilemmas that come with wielding such power. Harry, Hermione, and Ron constantly find themselves questioning their use of magic, wondering if their good intentions are enough to justify their actions. The question of whether magic should be used to help, control, or protect others is explored through several critical moments in the series, where the consequences of their choices leave lasting marks on the world. One of the clearest examples of the moral weight of magic can be seen when Harry Potter first learns of the unforgivable curses. These three dark spells, Imperius, Cruciatus, and Avada Kedavra, are forbidden because of the destructive consequences they can have. The mere knowledge of these curses offers insight into how far magic can be misused. The temptation of such power is great, yet the responsibility is heavier. In the final book, when Harry is faced with a moment of desperation and rage, he learns that using such curses could harm his very soul. Harry's struggle with the temptation of using dark magic reflects the core philosophy of the series. Power, in any form, demands responsibility. In the wizarding world, where a simple flick of a wand can alter reality, the choices a witch or wizard makes have consequences that ripple far beyond their own lives. Hermione Granger, too, embodies this internal conflict. Despite her brilliance and desire to help others, Hermione often finds herself caught between the right course of action and the potential dangers of overstepping boundaries. Her use of the Time Turner in The Prisoner of Azkaban is one example of her taking responsibility, but even this act is fraught with danger. Though her intentions were pure, the very act of tampering with time is something that could have led to disastrous outcomes. She and Harry both experience the tension of knowing that magic, in the wrong hands or used recklessly, can lead to unanticipated and irreversible harm. The The trio's adventures demonstrate this moral ambiguity repeatedly. In the Goblet of Fire, when Harry enters the Triwizard Tournament, the magical challenges he faces push him to use his wit, courage, and at times his magic in ways that put him at personal risk. But as he faces increasingly dark forces, he begins to understand that the stakes are higher than ever. The most poignant example of this is the death of Cedric Diggory. Harry's encounter with Cedric's death forces him to face the brutal reality of how his magical world is not immune to loss and tragedy. Although Harry never uses magic to directly cause Cedric's death, the world he inhabits is one where magic is both a tool of salvation and destruction. His use of magic during the graveyard scene, as he tries to protect himself and Cedric, highlights the terrifying fragility of life in a world ruled by magical forces. The consequences of using magic to protect others, even when done out of goodwill, remain uncertain. Another significant theme regarding the responsibility of magic is the use of potions. Potions, much like spells, are tools with the power to heal or harm. Professor Snape, the enigmatic and sometimes frightening potions master, is a figure who embodies the complexity of potion making. He teaches students about the delicate nature of potions, constantly reminding them that even the smallest misstep could result in disastrous consequences. The time when Harry and Ron are forced to take Polyjuice Potion in the Chamber of Secrets serves as a perfect example of this. Although they intend to use the potion to gain information, the results are less than ideal. The potion causes Harry, Ron, and Hermione to transform into less than ideal versions of other people, underscoring the unpredictability of magic. Their failure to use the potion correctly leads to unintended consequences, showing how even small, seemingly harmless magic can have far-reaching effects. The question of how far one can push the boundaries of magic without sacrificing moral integrity is explored more deeply in The Half-Blood Prince. The concept of Horcruxes, magical objects containing pieces of a wizard's soul, is a chilling reflection of the lengths to which some witches and wizards are willing to go to avoid death. Tom Riddle, or Lord Voldemort, has taken magic to its darkest extremes, using it to control, manipulate, and ultimately defy death itself. His willingness to destroy parts of his own soul in order to become immortal demonstrates the most terrifying aspect of magic, the power it has to corrupt. The moral consequences of creating a Horcrux are immense, and the book presents the irreversible damage that such a decision can cause. As Harry and Dumbledore uncover the mystery behind the Horcruxes, they realize that the very act of trying to fight evil can lead to compromising one's own humanity. However, the ultimate demonstration of magic's responsibility lies in the events surrounding the Battle of Hogwarts. The final book shows that magic, no matter how powerful, cannot replace personal sacrifice and integrity. Harry's acceptance of his fate, knowing that he must sacrifice himself in order to defeat Voldemort, underscores the series' central message. Magic may grant power, but it does not grant immunity from the consequences of one's choices. The destruction of the Horcruxes and Voldemort's ultimate downfall is not the result of a single act of magic, but rather the culmination of years of moral decisions made by Harry, Ron, Hermione, and their allies. The battle against Voldemort is not just a battle between good and evil, it is a struggle for the soul of the wizarding world itself. The ultimate victory comes not through the magical prowess of its heroes, but through their ability to resist the temptation of using magic for selfish purposes. Throughout the series, Dumbledore plays a crucial role in teaching the young heroes about the importance of magic's responsibility. Dumbledore, as the wise and often cryptic figure, frequently reminds Harry and the others that the use of magic is never without consequence. He also stresses the importance of choice, a central theme in the series. It is not the power of magic that defines a wizard's character, but the choices they make in how they use it. This theme becomes especially evident when Harry learns about Snape's true loyalty. Snape's complex role in the wizarding world is a testament to the fact that magic is not inherently good or evil. It is the intent behind its use that shapes its moral character. The series also explores the concept of self-control in relation to magic. The character of Neville Longbottom serves as a prime example of how the mastery of magic requires inner strength and discipline. Neville, who initially struggles with his magical abilities, later becomes one of the most courageous and skilled witches of his generation. His growth is a testament to the idea that responsibility is not just about knowing when to use magic, but also about knowing when to hold back. Neville's ultimate act of bravery, destroying the final Horcrux, shows that the greatest strength lies in using magic not to harm, but to protect. In addition to these personal journeys, the story presents a larger societal perspective on the responsibility of magic. The Ministry of Magic, with all its bureaucracy and corruption, serves as a reflection of how power can be abused in the name of control. The failure of the Ministry to recognize the true danger of Voldemort's return and the suppression of dissenting voices reveal the dangers of ignoring the moral responsibilities that come with power. The Ministry's actions underscore the point that even those in positions of authority must be held accountable for their use of magic. The dangers of unchecked power, whether wielded by individuals or institutions, are ever present in the wizarding world. At the heart of the Harry Potter series is the idea that the true battle is not simply against external evil, but against the potential darkness within each person. The responsibility of magic is not just a matter of using it for the greater good. It is about understanding the impact of one's choices and the willingness to face the consequences of those actions. The series' exploration of these themes provides a poignant reflection on the nature of power and the moral obligations that come with it. The magic in Harry Potter is not an all-powerful force that can solve every problem. It is a tool that requires wisdom, humility, and the courage to face the consequences of its use. Number 23, Myths and Legends of the Magical World. In the magical world of Harry Potter, myths and legends are deeply woven into the fabric of the society, influencing not just the daily lives of witches and wizards, but also shaping the history and beliefs of generations. Though the books and films touch on a few of these ancient stories, there are countless others that remain shrouded in mystery, their full potential untapped. The mythology of the wizarding world is vast, offering a treasure trove of untold stories, each with the power to reshape the lives of the characters and illuminate the past in ways we never fully explore. These stories, legends of dark wizards, cursed artifacts, and ancient prophecies, have the power to explain not only the origins of magical objects like the Horcruxes, but also the deeper connections between wizards, magical creatures, and the forces that govern life and death. One of the most famous myths in the wizarding world is the tale of the three brothers, a story that is passed down through generations, told in the form of a fairy tale in the tales of Beedle the Bard. The brothers, each representing a different aspect of human desire, one for power, one for wealth, and one for death, encounter death itself and are granted a wish. The eldest brother asks for the most powerful wand, the second asks for the ability to bring others back from the dead, and the youngest asks for something that will allow him to hide from death when his time comes. The wand, the resurrection stone, and the invisibility cloak become symbols of power, grief, and fate within the series. Yet what if this myth held more than a simple moral about hubris? Could it be tied to deeper magical forces that influence the choices of key figures in the wizarding world? Consider the invisibility cloak, one of the Deathly Hallows which Harry Potter inherits. In the series, the cloak serves as more than just a tool for secrecy. It's an artifact that links Harry to the very essence of the story of the three brothers. It's not simply a family heirloom passed down through generations, it's a piece of a larger cosmic puzzle. The legend hints at a magical lineage and a legacy that connects Harry with the past, suggesting that his life and the fate of the wizarding world is in some ways preordained. The fact that the cloak is one of the Deathly Hallows, objects that are said to be able to defeat death, adds a layer of tragic irony to Harry's story. Just as the youngest brother chose to escape death, Harry himself must come to terms with his own mortality, yet ultimately he triumphs because he accepts his death rather than evading it. The myths and legends surrounding the founders of Hogwarts also offer a deeper exploration of the wizarding world's past. One particularly intriguing legend is that of Salazar Slytherin, whose name continues to haunt the walls of Hogwarts. Slytherin's belief in the superiority of pureblood wizards is notorious, yet there is more to his legend than mere prejudice. Slytherin was a complex figure, a founder who, while valuing ambition and cunning, also left behind a legacy that continues to influence the dark wizardry of future generations. The Chamber of Secrets, hidden deep within the school, is a manifestation of Slytherin's obsession with purity and his desire to purge the school of those he deemed unworthy. But did Slytherin's fear of impurity go beyond mere blood status? Could there be a deeper, more insidious magic at play in the chamber, one that taps into ancient powers tied to the legend of the serpents? The idea of the Chamber of Secrets, with its monstrous guardian, the basilisk, echoes deeper magical forces that are linked to darker, forgotten legends. The serpent, a symbol of power, deceit, and death, could represent an ancient magical force that Slytherin himself may have hoped to control, using it to create a lasting impact on the wizarding world. The fact that the Chamber's secrets were hidden for centuries before Harry's discovery adds a sense of inevitability to the myth. The darkness always returns, no matter how much it is buried. The connection between Slytherin's bloodline and the monsters in his legacy is a piece of forgotten history that could have been explored further, potentially revealing how his obsession with purity led to the creation of dark magic that continues to plague the world. The Horcruxes, another pivotal element in the series, are shrouded in myth and legend, tied to the darkest corners of wizarding magic. Voldemort, in his quest for immortality, creates multiple Horcruxes, objects that contain fragments of his soul, each representing a part of his identity, his ambition, and his obsession with control. But the idea of the Horcrux itself is ancient, tied to legends of wizards seeking to defy death and protect their power at any cost. What if the Horcruxes were part of a larger, more profound magical tradition, one that involved the manipulation of life and death in ways that had long been outlawed? The origins of the Horcruxes could have been tied to a forgotten branch of magic, one that connects dark wizards to the very forces of life and death that the Deathly Hallows sought to control. The creation of the Horcruxes itself is a deeply disturbing act, one that splits the soul and marks the wizard as someone willing to go to any length to retain power. Yet there is a mythic quality to the process, something that ties Voldemort to the ancient figures who sought to defy death through forbidden magic. The Horcruxes could have been linked to old stories of wizards who, centuries before Voldemort, attempted to achieve immortality, only to be lost to history because their practices were too dangerous. Voldemort's use of the Horcruxes in this sense is not merely an isolated act of evil, but a continuation of a much older, dark tradition that was lost to the magical world. These ancient stories, myths, and legends do not merely serve as a backdrop to the events of the series. They provide a deeper understanding of the motivations and actions of the characters. The myths of the three brothers, the founders of Hogwarts, and the dark wizards who came before Voldemort all create a rich tapestry that can be unraveled to reveal more about the world Harry Potter inhabits. Had J.K. Rowling chosen to delve deeper into these stories, the wizarding world would have been even richer in its complexities. The myth of the three brothers, for example, shows how the pursuit of power, love, and immortality has consequences that span generations. The Resurrection Stone, the Invisibility Cloak, and the Elder Wand each represent a different path one can take when faced with the question of life and death. These objects are not merely magical artifacts, but symbols of choices that characters in the books make. Harry's use of the Invisibility Cloak, for example, becomes a symbol of his willingness to face his fears and to make sacrifices for the greater good. The story of the three brothers could have been expanded to explore how each of these objects and the myths surrounding them affected not just Harry, but the entire wizarding world. Similarly, the myth of Slytherin and the Chamber of Secrets reveals a darker, more complicated history of Hogwarts. Slytherin's legacy is not just about blood purity, but about the darker forces that he sought to control. What if the Chamber of Secrets was not just a symbol of Slytherin's prejudice, but a manifestation of ancient magic that tied him to a long line of dark wizards? The connection between Slytherin's ideals and the rise of dark magic in the wizarding world could have been explored in greater detail, offering new insights into the origins of Voldemort's power. These myths and legends are not merely stories of the past, but forces that continue to shape the present and the future. They influence the actions of characters like Voldemort, Harry, and Dumbledore, each of whom is touched by these ancient tales in different ways. The wizarding world, as rich as it is in its own history, could have been expanded even further by exploring these forgotten myths and legends. They hold the keys to many of the mysteries that remain unsolved, from the origins of the Horcruxes to the true nature of magic itself. Had these stories been explored more fully, they could have illuminated the hidden truths of the wizarding world, revealing the intricate connections between the past, present, and future. Number 24. Magical sports and their darker sides. In the magical world of Harry Potter, sports play a significant role, but they are rarely explored in full depth. While Quidditch dominates the scene, a handful of other magical sports are mentioned in passing or remain entirely out of the spotlight. In many ways, Quidditch represents a wholesome, heroic part of wizarding culture, but the existence of other magical sports and their darker aspects remain largely unexplored, creating an intriguing gap in the story. What happens behind the closed doors of magical competitions? Could there be darker, more dangerous sides to these sports? What would the magical community look like if we delved into the less glamorous, more nefarious aspects of its athletic culture? Quidditch, though famous, is not the only game in the magical world. The books mention various other games, such as Quibble, a sport described as a cross between Quidditch and soccer. Though it is never fully detailed, we know that different countries have their own magical sports with differing rules and dangers, but very few of these are shown in the series. What about the sports that are less talked about, perhaps due to their dangerous nature or moral ambiguity? Some might have been forgotten for their brutality or sheer malice. What if there were sports so violent that the magical community had to suppress their existence entirely, wiping them from the history books? The magical community, despite its outward appearance of civility and decorum, may have deeper, more sinister layers that would be revealed in a closer examination of its sports culture. Let's think about a forbidden sport played in the darkest corners of the wizarding world, one that is so dangerous that its very existence must be hidden. Imagine a game that involves magic so potent, so malicious, that the only way to win is by harming your opponents. A sport that requires its players to use powerful and dangerous curses where the line between victory and death is razor thin. What if such a sport existed in the shadows, whispered about only by those who had witnessed its gruesome outcomes? Then there is the possibility of corruption within the more widely accepted magical sports. Though Quidditch seems to embody the ideals of teamwork, honor, and skill, it's not entirely free of questionable practices. The Triwizard Tournament, for instance, is not only physically demanding, but ethically dubious. The very nature of the tournament, where students are pitted against each other in life-threatening tasks, raises questions about its morality. What kind of message does it send to young witches and wizards that they are sent to risk their lives as part of a public spectacle? And while the tournament may be heralded as a symbol of magical prowess, it also reveals a darker side to the magical community. It is controlled by the Ministry of Magic, an institution that seeks to make a spectacle out of danger, even if it means exploiting the lives of its participants. The Triwizard Tournament is often seen through rose-coloured glasses, with the champions, Harry Potter, Cedric Diggory, Victor Crumb, and Fleur Delacour, viewed as the pinnacle of young magical achievement. But a closer look shows how deeply the tournament is tied to political machinations, with dangerous tasks designed to test the contestants in ways that often seem both cruel and unfair. The third task, for instance, sees the participants trapped in a maze filled with magical creatures and traps, all designed to push them to their limits. The magical community is so fixated on the idea of competition and prestige that they overlook the immense psychological toll these contests take on the competitors. The dark side of magical sports also extends beyond the actions of the ministry. Consider the example of the Quidditch World Cup, where the event's prestige leads to widespread manipulation. Barty Crouch, a ministry official, uses his power to influence the outcome of the cup, even going so far as to manipulate the match results. This is not an isolated incident. The pressure to succeed in magical sports can often lead to corruption and unethical behavior as the desire for victory becomes an obsession. Magic, after all, is not just a tool for creating beauty or solving problems. It can be twisted into a weapon for manipulation, coercion, and even murder. It is also worth considering the culture of violence and intimidation that might exist in some magical sports. While the games we see in the books, such as Quidditch, are dangerous, they are still largely confined to a structure of rules and norms that prevent the players from going too far. But what if there were sports, long forgotten or deliberately hidden, where the rules allowed for far darker practices? These games might not only be physically demanding, but morally corrupting, encouraging a disregard for life and personal well-being. What if, in these sports, the most brutal competitors rose to the top, their success rooted in fear and violence? One particularly intriguing aspect of the hidden sports of the wizarding world could be the role of forbidden magic. In many cases, magic is used to enhance or influence a game, but the types of magic allowed and disallowed in sports remain somewhat unclear. What if there were magical sports where dark spells, such as the unforgivable curses, were not only permitted but encouraged? In such a scenario, the boundaries between light and dark magic would blur, and the consequences of losing a match could be fatal. It would be a place where athletes risked not only their lives but their very souls, as the use of forbidden magic would bind them to forces beyond their control. Even within Quidditch, a closer examination of the darker side of competition could provide a fresh perspective. For instance, the pressure to perform at high levels could lead to dangerous consequences. Players could face the temptation to use illegal enhancements, such as enchanted broomsticks or illegal potions, to gain an edge over their opponents. The thirst for victory could override a sense of ethics, leading players to cross lines they would otherwise never consider. And yet, despite the inherent danger in these practices, the magical community turns a blind eye so long as the spectacle continues to bring in revenue and attention. Then there's the fact that magical sports are not just for witches and wizards, they also have a history of exploitation. Magical creatures, such as the blast-ended Scroots in the Triwizard Tournament, are treated as tools to entertain audiences, often subjected to cruelty for the sake of sport. These creatures, sentient beings in their own right, are forced to participate in competitions, their natural instincts twisted to fit the human desire for spectacle. In this sense, magical sports become a microcosm of the broader wizarding world's relationship with creatures that are deemed lesser or other. The darker side of these games reveals a society that exploits the vulnerable for its own enjoyment. Moreover, the very idea of competitive sports in the wizarding world raises questions about how success and prestige are defined. If victory is the ultimate goal, what are the sacrifices made along the way? What kind of toll does it take on the players, the audience, and the broader community? In the pursuit of excellence, is it possible that the true essence of magic, the peaceful, life-affirming force that makes the wizarding world so unique, could be lost, replaced by a brutal competition where the ends justify the means? Looking beyond the competition itself, there is also the issue of the culture surrounding it. Magical sports are often seen as celebrations of athleticism, talent, and teamwork, but at their core they are also about power and control. The most successful athletes are often the ones with the most resources, the best connections, or the most ruthless ambition. This power dynamic can create a toxic environment where fairness is secondary to success. In the worst cases, it leads to a society that values victory above all else, no matter the cost. In the end, the world of magical sports in Harry Potter offers a fascinating glimpse into a society that is far more complex than it first appears. From the corrupting influence of power to the hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface, the magical sports world is fraught with moral ambiguity and ethical dilemmas. Perhaps there is a darker, hidden story waiting to be told, one that reveals the true nature of competition, fame, and the price of victory. As we explore the many layers of the wizarding world, it becomes clear that the games are not always as innocent as they seem. Number 25. Magical creatures and their roles in the magical world. In the magical world of Harry Potter, creatures are far more than just fantastical beings that roam the shadows or fly through the skies. They are deeply intertwined with the fabric of magic itself. Each creature plays a specific role that holds symbolic significance, weaving an intricate tapestry of history, tradition, and power. From the venomous fang of an acromantula to the majestic wings of a hippogriff, magical creatures possess unique traits and abilities that enhance the world's mystery and depth. However, within the pages of J.K. Rowling's 7 books and the accompanying films, we only see a fraction of the magical creatures that inhabit this enchanted universe. What we know about them is merely the tip of the iceberg, leaving much to be explored and understood. One of the most intriguing missed opportunities in the series is the role that ancient and forgotten magical creatures could have played in the larger narrative. In the wizarding world, it is clear that some creatures possess extraordinary powers, histories, and connections to magical events. While the books provide glimpses of certain creatures, the deeper histories of these beings are often left untold. The ancient beasts, hidden away in the farthest corners of the magical world, remain largely unexplored. The tales of these creatures, their connections to magic, and their role in the past would have added rich layers to the already complex wizarding world. Take, for instance, the acromantulas, giant, highly venomous spiders. These creatures, bred in the forests of the Amazon, are feared for their size and intelligence. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the acromantula aragog serves as a key figure in the mystery surrounding the Chamber of Secrets. Despite their terrifying appearance and dangerous abilities, acromantulas are shown to have their own form of society and even display emotional connections. Aragog's deep bond with Hagrid, the care of magical creatures professor, offers a rare glimpse into the softer side of such monstrous beings. However, one must wonder what other species of acromantulas might exist, what other secrets they might hold about the past, and whether their venom was ever used in ancient magical rites. The hippogriff, like Buckbeak, offers another fascinating example of the creatures that could have had a more profound role in the magical world's history. The hippogriff, a majestic creature with the body of a horse and the wings and head of an eagle, symbolizes a harmony between the earth and the sky. Buckbeak's story, though emotional and heart-wrenching, is ultimately a tale of respect. This powerful creature is an emblem of the values of loyalty and dignity, reflecting the very themes that run through Harry's life. Yet we barely scratch the surface of what hippogriffs could signify in the greater narrative of magic. Were these creatures present in magical battles of the past, riding into war alongside ancient wizards? Did they once belong to forgotten houses or figures whose influence has been erased from history? In a world where magical creatures are often kept at arm's length, the deeper connection between wizards and hippogriffs might have added a layer of complexity to the series. Then there are the dragons, fierce creatures known for their immense strength and magical properties. The dragons, such as the Hungarian Horntail in the Tri-Wizard tournament, are undoubtedly some of the most iconic creatures in the series. However, their history and connection to magical events are barely touched upon. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the Tri-Wizard tournament provides the only real opportunity to witness a dragon's majesty and ferocity. We see the competitors battle these formidable creatures. But little is revealed about how dragons came to be intertwined with wizarding society. What role did dragons play in the ancient wars between wizards and dark forces? Could there be other ancient breeds of dragons, ones with magical abilities that far surpass the ones we see? What secrets might these creatures hold about the ancient battles fought for the control of magic itself? Consider the tale of the Thestrals, the winged horses visible only to those who have witnessed death. These creatures are both haunting and beautiful, representing the intersection between life and death. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry first sees Thestrals when he boards the carriage to Hogwarts after Cedric Diggory's death. This marks a pivotal moment in Harry's understanding of mortality, and the Thestrals themselves become a symbol of acceptance and understanding of loss. Yet the deeper lore behind these creatures is barely explored. How long have Thestrals been part of wizarding society, and how have their perceptions of death shaped the magical community? In an era when the fear of death dominated the wizarding world, the Thestrals could have been a central point in exploring the profound relationship between magic, life, and death. There are creatures whose presence in the world of Harry Potter seems almost forgotten, or at least underappreciated. One such example is the Phoenix, which represents immortality and rebirth. Fawkes, Dumbledore's loyal companion, plays a vital role in the defeat of Tom Riddle in the Chamber of Secrets. The Phoenix's tears heal, its song soothes, and its ability to rise from its ashes signifies the endless cycle of life and death. But the significance of the Phoenix in magical history extends far beyond Dumbledore's office. What role did Phoenixes play in the wars and conflicts that shaped the magical world? Could they have once been protectors of ancient bloodlines, their tears used as elixirs for the ill or dying? The phoenix represents a level of mystical power that could have been more deeply woven into the fabric of the magical world, serving as a link to the lost knowledge of ancient wizards. The house elves also deserve a closer look. While we see their role in the lives of prominent wizarding families like the Malfoys and the Weasleys, their deeper history and connection to magic is largely unexplored. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Dobby's tale of servitude and eventual liberation reveals the deeply ingrained class system in the magical world. Yet Dobby's story is only one of many. House elves are powerful creatures capable of performing magic that wizards cannot, yet they are bound by ancient laws and traditions. How far back does this servitude stretch, and who were the first house elves who learned to use magic? Were they once revered as wise beings, or did they always serve wizards in the shadows? The full extent of house elf magic, their origin, and their place in the wizarding world could have formed the basis for an entire narrative thread exploring the power dynamics between creatures and wizards. While magical creatures are frequently employed as tools or obstacles in the Harry Potter books, the missed opportunity lies in the potential for these creatures to become central characters with their own stories and histories. The acromantulas, the hippogriffs, the dragons, and the phoenixes could each have their own legends and ties to ancient magical forces, perhaps even to the dark magic of Lord Voldemort. These creatures, their history, and their influence on the magical world are far more complex than they appear on the surface. The ancient and forgotten creatures of the wizarding world could reveal much about the dark past of the magical realm, where magical beasts were as much a part of the struggle for power as wizards themselves. Had these creatures been allies to great wizards of old, such as Merlin, or were they once manipulated by dark forces in their quests for domination? Were the bonds between wizards and creatures ever as sacred as those between wizards and wands, or had they always been marred by the thirst for power and control? The absence of these stories in the Harry Potter series leaves a world of unexplored potential, a treasure trove of magical histories and mysteries waiting to be discovered. Number 26. Cursed families and their tragic fates. The wizarding world is filled with shadowy figures, dark pasts, and the invisible weight of ancient curses. Among the most compelling yet tragic tales are those of the so-called cursed families in the Harry Potter universe. Families whose fates were entwined with blood curses, unyielding loyalty, and the burden of magical legacies. While these families remain shrouded in darkness throughout most of the series, their stories could have easily taken center stage, unfolding layers of family curses, loyalty to dark ideologies, and tragic betrayals. Families like the Malfoys, the Blacks, and the Pews were not just defined by their wealth or magic. Their names were steeped in curses that guided their fates, shaping their destinies for generations. The Black family, one of the oldest and most prestigious pureblood families in the wizarding world, serves as a prime example of how a family can be cursed by its own values and the consequences of rigid purity. The Blacks, proud and powerful, adhered to a strict code of blood purity and were notorious for their disdain of Muggle-borns. This philosophy was passed down like a curse from one generation to the next, leading to a series of tragic choices that would mark the family's history forever. Among the most tragic of these was the fate of Sirius Black, a young man who was forced to betray his own family's ideals in order to break free from their suffocating grip. Sirius, the son of Orion and Walburga Black, was born into a family where pure blood supremacy was not just a belief, but a law. His mother, Walburga, a staunch supporter of the Dark Lord, would not tolerate anything that deviated from the Black family's strict principles. Yet Sirius, from an early age, felt repulsed by the hatred and venom that coursed through his family's veins. It wasn't until he came of age that he could stand up against the family's expectations, ultimately leaving his home and severing ties with his bloodline. "The blacks are the family you cannot leave," Sirius once said, hinting at the burden that their values placed on his soul. However, Sirius wasn't the only one to suffer under the weight of this cursed family. His brother, Regulus Black, was another victim of the family's fanatical allegiance to Voldemort. Regulus, in contrast to Sirius, chose to follow the Dark Lord, believing that this was his duty as a Black. But his decision would also lead him down a path of tragedy. Regulus' eventual betrayal of Voldemort when he tried to destroy a Horcrux in an effort to thwart the Dark Lord was a death sentence. He died young, and his final noble act, an act that might have redeemed him in the eyes of his family, went largely unnoticed in the great web of evil spun by his own bloodline. The Malfoy family, another infamous pureblood family, provides a similarly cursed example. The Malfoys were wealthy, proud, and powerful, with a long history of supporting dark causes. Lucius Malfoy, the patriarch of the family, was one of Voldemort's most loyal followers during the First Wizarding War. His power and influence were built on a foundation of fear, and his son, Draco, was groomed to follow in his footsteps. Draco, however, would not follow his father's path without question. His journey throughout the series reflects the internal battle between loyalty to his family and his own growing sense of right and wrong. Draco's inner conflict was first evident in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince when he was tasked with a mission to help the Death Eaters kill Dumbledore. The curse of the Malfoy family, loyalty to the Dark Lord and the burden of pure-blood ideology pressed heavily on Draco's shoulders. He found himself caught between two worlds, the world of his family, which demanded his loyalty, and the world of his own conscience, which was at odds with the evil his father had embraced. By the end of the book, Draco was no longer a mere follower of Voldemort's regime. He had become a symbol of the generational curse that plagued his family. Draco's final decision to not kill Dumbledore, despite the order given to him, was a moment of rebellion, but it came at great personal cost. His family, having long been ensnared by dark forces, could not escape their fate so easily. Lucius Malfoy, though imprisoned in Azkaban, was still a product of the same legacy, unable to break free from the shadows of his own family's past. The Malfoys, like the Blacks, were trapped by their own loyalty, a loyalty that they could not escape, even when they realized the true nature of their actions. The Pughs, another lesser-known family, also share a similarly tragic story. The Pughs were known for their fervent support of Voldemort and their role in the First Wizarding War. The family had deep ties to the Death Eaters, and their commitment to pure-blood ideology was just as unyielding as that of the Malfoys or the Blacks. Yet the Pughs' story is marked by the tragic fate of their final heir, who was born into the chaos of the Second Wizarding War. Much like Draco Malfoy, the last surviving member of the Pugh family faced a terrible choice: to join the Death Eaters or rebel against the curse that defined his bloodline. In the end, the Pugh family's tragic fate was sealed when the last of their line was killed in battle, a victim of his own family's dark history. The Pughs, like the Blacks and the Malfoys, were a family cursed by the expectations of their ancestors, a curse that could not be easily escaped. These families, each marked by their own tragic destinies, share a common thread: the burden of family loyalty, the weight of inherited ideologies, and the consequences of betrayal. The cursed families of the wizarding world are not just defined by their actions, but by the deep-rooted beliefs that have shaped them for generations. Their stories serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind loyalty and the price that must be paid for defying a legacy. The tragedy of the Black family, for example, is not just in the lives lost or the betrayals committed. It is in the way the family's curse, its rigid, unyielding belief in blood purity, shaped every decision they made. Similarly, the Malfoys' tragedy lies not just in their wealth or power, but in the toxic loyalty to Voldemort that poisoned their relationships and nearly destroyed their futures. These families, so entrenched in their ideals, cannot escape the dark fate that their bloodline has bestowed upon them. What if these stories had been explored more deeply in the series? What if we had seen more of the personal struggles of characters like Regulus Black or Draco Malfoy as they navigated the tensions between their family's expectations and their own sense of morality? How might the tragic legacies of these families have shaped the course of the wizarding world if they had chosen differently? These questions linger in the shadows as the untold stories of cursed families remain some of the most compelling and tragic parts of the Harry Potter universe. Their fates serve as a reminder of the power of family, legacy, and the consequences of blind loyalty. Number 27, Lost Magical Artifacts. In the wizarding world of Harry Potter, the mysteries and histories surrounding magical artifacts are as vast as the secrets of the past itself. For centuries, countless enchanted objects have been created, used and forgotten, each imbued with a unique power, some dangerous, others mysterious. Many of these artifacts hold keys to unlocking deeper secrets of magic, and yet some have vanished from history, leaving only whispers in the shadows. These lost artifacts, hidden away or deliberately erased from the annals of wizarding history, could have changed the course of events in the magical world, offering more insight into the very fabric of magic itself. Take, for example, the legend of the Cup of Helga Hufflepuff. The Golden Cup, a symbol of Hufflepuff House, was once owned by its founder, Helga Hufflepuff, who was known for her fairness and loyalty. The cup was believed to possess magical properties that reflected these virtues, granting the holder an advantage in their pursuit of loyalty and unity. However, the true extent of its power is not revealed in the films. Hidden away, it was passed down through generations, and ultimately, it ended up in the hands of Tom Riddle, later known as Lord Voldemort, who made it into one of his Horcruxes. While its significance is acknowledged, the deep, untold potential of this cup, and others like it, is left to speculation. Why was such a precious item concealed from history, its magical properties left unexplored by future generations? The Cup of Hufflepuff is not the only artifact whose secrets remain shrouded in mystery. The Ring of Salazar Slytherin, for example, is another artifact whose full power has never been fully explained. The ring, a dark relic once belonging to the founder of Slytherin House, was infused with a dangerous curse that only Voldemort himself could withstand. He turned it into one of his Horcruxes, sealing a part of his soul within it, making it not only a powerful magical object, but also a key to Voldemort's immortality. Yet the origins of the ring and its connection to Slytherin's ambitions for pureblood supremacy are never fully explored in the series. What if the ring held additional powers tied to the bloodlines of magical families, or could offer access to forgotten dark magic? These are questions that the wizarding world has left unanswered, allowing these relics to remain enigmatic and untouchable. Then there is the lost knowledge of the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand ever created, forged by death itself. The wand, as we learn, is part of the Deathly Hallows, but its true history is far more complex than we are led to believe in the films. The Elder Wand was sought after by many dark wizards, from Gellert Grindelwald to Voldemort, each believing they could wield its immense power. However, the history of the wand stretches back far beyond what is revealed, and much of its origin remains unknown. Why was such a powerful artifact hidden from the world, and what else could it have done if wielded by a wizard with pure intentions rather than one consumed by power? These are the kinds of questions that arise when we consider the Elder Wand's true significance, beyond the battles and struggles depicted in the books. The story of the lost artifacts, however, is not confined to the ancient relics of the Hogwarts founders or the Deathly Hallows. There are countless other magical objects that have been lost to time or forgotten by wizards, with their true power lying dormant, waiting to be rediscovered. The Book of the Dead, said to contain the secrets of the afterlife, is one such artifact that could have opened a gateway into the realm of the deceased. This book, a fabled piece of dark magic, was rumored to have been created by a long-forgotten sorcerer who sought to conquer death itself. While we know little of its true nature, its very existence suggests that there are forces within the wizarding world that go beyond what we have been taught, that there are greater dangers and mysteries waiting in the shadows. Moreover, there are other, lesser-known magical objects that have disappeared from the historical records, such as the cloak of invisibility that was once possessed by James Potter before it passed to his son Harry. This particular cloak, unlike others, is said to be one of the 3 Deathly Hallows, yet its true origin remains an enigma. Why did it survive through the generations despite being used by various owners? Could there be other cloaks of similar power hidden across the wizarding world, waiting to be discovered? The mysteries surrounding such artifacts are endless, and with each new revelation, one can't help but wonder what else lies buried beneath the surface of magical history. Even more intriguing are the magical tools and objects that were once thought to be ordinary, but which, in the right hands, could reveal untold secrets. Consider the enchanted mirror used by Harry to communicate with his deceased parents. This mirror, though it seems like a simple magical item, was much more than it appeared. It was a piece of a larger, forgotten magic, a fragment of a deeper magic that could allow wizards to transcend the boundary between life and death. If there were more mirrors like this hidden in the wizarding world, they might offer even greater insights into the mysteries of the afterlife, or allow wizards to alter their fates in unimaginable ways. But such mirrors remain lost, and their true power is left unexplored, a quiet reminder of the magic that was once at the very heart of the wizarding world.